Good evening and welcome to tonight's Homewood City Council meeting on January 13th, 2020. I'm going to call the tonight's meeting to order, and we are going to begin tonight with some sad news. Our hearts are all very heavy this week and tonight, and having lost our beloved fire chief who has served our city for, I think it was 37 years, if I have the years correct. It was a long time, and he's served our city and served our community and served us in countless ways. And with that, I do want to all rise and have a moment of silence for him before we have an invocation and a pledge of allegiance, please. So if everyone would just bow their heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll begin tonight with invocation. Robert Burgett's going to do the invocation for us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Burgett.
Let's bow our heads, please. Father, you know our hearts and our sorrows tonight. We're hurting by the loss of a friend, a father, a co-worker, someone that we've all come to know, love, and appreciate over the years. We're angry at the loss that we've suffered, and we're looking for words of comfort, even though the words are hard for us to hear at this time. Let us turn our grief into a celebration for the life of a man that we've all known to come and love at this time. I want to thank you for this meeting tonight, Lord, and that everyone that's here that's like-minded, that you'll give us the tasks that we are to fulfill. You will provide us guidance and show us the way that we need to move forward. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Robert. And there'll be some other announcements at the end of the meeting pertaining to Chief President. All right, face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Robert. We'll begin tonight's meeting with roll call vote. Miss Melody.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gwaltney?
Here.
Mr. Thames?
Here.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Here.
Mr. Wolverton? Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wyatt?
Here.
Mrs. Andrus?
Here.
Mr. Harden?
Here.
And President Wright.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. First item I'm going to pull out of order here. We actually have an action item on this. It's going to be a little bit unusual, but we're going to turn to item 141219, which is a request for consideration of a no trafficking proclamation coming to us from Councilors Patrick McCluskey and Jennifer Andrus. This did come to our public safety meeting for consideration, and I'll ask for a report from Mr. McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety Committee met on January 6, 2020 and voted 3-0 to recommend approval of the proclamation. Motion was made by Councilor Andrus and seconded by Councilor Wolverton.
All right, so thank you for that. With coming out of committee, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that action is approved, and that will get us to the first item for tonight, which is a presentation tonight of that proclamation recognizing January as National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And Mayor, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have four ladies here tonight with us. They just wanted to speak briefly before we present the proclamation.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Jan Bell. I work with the Family Court of Jefferson County,
which helped to launch and kind of coordinate the Child Trafficking Solutions Project, which is a really broad-based coalition of many, many allies, representing some here with the Junior League of Birmingham, many law enforcement agencies and nonprofits and NGOs. So all of that to say, we've been working on this scourge of trafficking and child trafficking in particular in Jefferson County. And this model of a trafficking-free zone is one that's really latched on. And we're so excited that you guys have made this step. I know many of you guys, I want to thank y'all who are the two council people who helped introduce this, so thank you for that. But y'all now are the next and the last of the over the mountain communities to sign on in our Jefferson County. And the whole concept of a trafficking-free zone is just really a saturation of all aspects of the community to fight this thing, because the traffickers, if they realize every segment of the society, from law enforcement, but also your hospitality industry, your employees, the schools, all the whole community, it's kind of like the drug-free zone concept, right? It's not going to eliminate it entirely, it's just too pervasive. But it's saying that not here, this community, we are wide open, and we're watching for this and going to do something about it. So we're really excited, again, for today. Ironically, earlier this morning, I was in conversation with your city schools. They actually contacted us a few weeks ago about training all of your educators, which is a key step of that. In fact, that's part of being a trafficking-free zone, except you guys are already ahead of it, because on February 17th, 100% of every teacher and administrator in Homewood City Schools will be trained through this endeavor. So we're excited about it. There's some components to this related to training law enforcement, to training city employees, to be able to, again, recognize this from your first responders. And again, so sorry about your loss. I recently moved from Homewood, but raised my children here, and I'm familiar with your fire chief, and so sorry for that loss. But anyway, I just want to, again, thank you. We have folks here who are from Homewood, and just see if they want to have a comment to make. Sure. This is Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bierman-Walnick, and I'm a resident as well as a business owner here in Homewood, and just want to say thank you for recognizing the importance of ending or trying our best to end human trafficking. The business I run is the Heart Gallery, and we work with children who are living here in foster care, and a large percentage of these children are products of human trafficking, and so it's very important to my heart as well as to our community, so thank you.
And we have folks from the Junior League who are also, do y'all have any comments? Okay. Do you want to add anything?
Oh, no, I mean, so I'm Meg. I presented with y'all last year with the Junior League of Birmingham, but I'm also a Homewood resident, and just glad to see that our community is taking a stand against this.
Well, thank y'all. We're available. We're here for the long haul. I mean, we're doing this today, but we're here as partners. So this will be a robust relationship that we'll have with you over the next months and months. Part of the goal is the World Games are coming in about 18 months. So and we know whenever you have an international event, traffickers follow that. So part of the impetus on this as well is that we're just getting our whole community engaged in this in concert with the World Games. So that's some of our end goal of getting folks trained and things of that nature by that point. So
All right,
thank you all so
we're
much.
going to let the mayor read the proclamation, deliver it to you, so please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm glad it passed, or this would have been a lot for. So I will say this: we may be over one of the last over the mountain communities to do this, but I think because of the way the holidays had fallen, that well, I just want to say that the council, from the very inception of this, they have certainly supported it without question. So thanks, Mr. President, to the rest of the council that put this together. So let's do the proclamation and take a picture. How about that? Ladies, if y'all would. The council always allows me to turn my back to them for just a second so we can face the audience. So if I can just get y'all to come right over here with me. All the short people next to me. So we have a proclamation, Human Trafficking Free Zone, the World Games Birmingham 2021. Whereas the city of Birmingham has chosen to host the World Games 2021, an international sporting event that will bring thousands of athletes as well as countless tourists and media to the Birmingham metro area. And whereas an increase in tourists seeking entertainment, including commercial sex, increases the potential risk for exploitation and human trafficking. Traffickers are opportunistic hunters, and they see major sporting events and the hundreds of thousands of people who flock to sports venues as an opportunity for huge profits with very little risk of penalty or punishment. And whereas human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which victims are forced to work in various forms of exploitation, including debt bondage, forced marriage, labor and commercial sex exploitation that are induced through force, fraud, or coercion. The City of Homewood, Alabama is committed to becoming a trafficking-free zone, ensuring that our community is prepared to recognize signs of human trafficking. And whereas, due to its isolating nature, many individuals are unaware that trafficking exists in their neighborhoods, the first step in eliminating human trafficking in our community is to educate others. We must work diligently to ensure that all frontline industries are aware of this issue and how to spot it. So now, therefore, I, Scott McBrayer, Mayor of the City of Homewood, Alabama, hereby proclaim that we will continue our efforts to combat the commercial sexual exploitation of our children and vulnerable adults and mitigate the associated public safety, economic, and health risks to our community in collaboration with the Child Trafficking Solutions Project, the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking, and other anti-human trafficking organizations. By combating commercial sexual exploitation through comprehensive education of our state and the implementation and enforcement of a zero-tolerance policy against any act which may support human trafficking. And we ask that all citizens of the City of Homewood join us in promoting a shift away from the culture of tolerance toward human trafficking. Ladies, on behalf of the City of Homewood and our 25,000 residents, thank you for your diligence, your hard work, and all the efforts that you're putting in to stop this terrible issue that's happening in our society. So thank you so much.
We're glad to have you all on the team. And I know you've been there.
Thank you all very much.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
We're
Thank you.
excited. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Just address y'all for a second before we get started.
I'm sorry?
Can I address you for a second?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
So, I know you have some announcements toward the end of council meeting, but I just want to say, I'm just going to ask that I be excused from the meeting tonight. There are just some things we need to be ready for in the morning that we need to take care of. So I want to publicly say, our city is, we're at a huge loss right now. But I will also say this, the men and women of the Homewood Fire Department, they haven't missed a call. As hard as it is, they continue running, serving, protecting. And Friday was a tough day for everybody. A lot of people kind of helped us through that day. And I want to thank the coroner's office. They allowed us to leave our chief there in the emergency room till Lexi could get here and see him. Pray for Lexi. She's got a long, hard road ahead of her that she's not aware of yet. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we'll receive the chief into City Hall, where he will lie in state from 10 to 2 in honor of his service. The family will be present for that. You're welcome to be here for that if you'd like to be. At 2, we'll go back up to the funeral home, and then a little later, the family will have some time to spend with the chief before we come back just prior to 5 p.m. to start the public visitation. So from 5 until 8 tomorrow night will be the visitation in Rosewood Hall. There'll be a reception for friends and family. On Wednesday, we will have his service at 1 o'clock. So it'll commence at 1. I'm not exactly sure at this point, but for any council members who are planning to be there, we will have a place of honor for you to be seated. And then from there, there will be a procession to Jefferson Memorial Cemetery in Trussville. I especially want to thank the guys who worked so hard on our chief. I want to thank our police department. Our police chief was there, and they blocked those intersections, escorting the chief to the emergency room. All the communities around in Jefferson County, we had an incident management team meeting this morning, basically coordinating everything, how many vehicles, who all's coming, who's doing what. It's a lot of work that goes into that, work that they're gladly doing because they know they're honoring their friend and our chief. So pray for the family. It's obviously a shock for them, just like it is for us. But I did want to just say how proud I was of all our employees that have been helping. And for you as a council, I'll just say on a personal note that when I meet with the department heads getting ready to prepare a budget, I can tell you that John Bresnan always tried to do that with respect and not put you in positions that made you look bad. And we always talked about that. It's not asking for something that we know we can't give you. And he was always easygoing about that. And I know he thought had a tremendous amount of respect for you and for what you do in your position. So I'm sure he's told you that personally, but I just wanted you to know he's told others that too, including me. So I appreciate y'all's thoughts and prayers. I didn't mean to speak quite that long, but really proud of the way Homewood is coming together at the appropriate time. We'll do what we need to do as far as getting our department back up to full staff, and I also want to thank Mike. He's been a tremendous guidance for us on all sorts of issues that no one even thinks about. So, Mike, thank you for what you've been able to do. So, again, if y'all will excuse me, for those that can, I'll see you in the morning at 10.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for your help and leadership through this difficult time as well, Mayor. All right. We'll have some more comments about Mr. Bresnan and Chief Bresnan at the end of our meeting tonight. All right, we're going to proceed with the agenda. We actually have a next item is an announcement of the 2020 Homewood Stormwater Management Program Plans Public Comment Period, and this is pursuant to our new plan that we need to announce on behalf of the city. The city will seek public input on the 2020 Homewood Stormwater Management Program Plan by posting the draft of the plan on Homewood's website for comments. Notification announcements will be made at council meetings. The council approved Homewood Stormwater Management Program Plan for the upcoming year will then be posted on the website and be submitted yearly for the annual report on January 31st. This item will actually be on our agenda on January 27th, 2020 for further action. And so with that, there's no need for action on that tonight, but I did want to go ahead and make that announcement pursuant to our plan. All right, we'll begin with reading of the minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. McCluskey, did you? Sure, Mr. McCluskey, I'm sorry.
Just wanted to follow up. Of course, the mayor had much more important things to attend to, but I wanted to follow up based off of the proclamation that we adopted tonight. I wanted to reiterate some of the words. Some people that were at the committee meetings last week got to hear Captain Ben Sutton with the Homewood Police Department kind of go over some of the statistics and everything from the trafficking work that we've been doing for quite some time now. And thank you, Chief Ross, for being in attendance, and for, of course, the entire Homewood Police Department. But I just wanted to read really quick some of the information that it's actually from Detective Ricketts and the entire narcotics team. And this was just kind of a recap from 2019. I won't go over the entire list, but some of the highlights were included that in 2019, over 60 prostitution arrests were made during multiple undercover operations. And again, this is from Detective Trent Ricketts, who is part of their narcotics team, but he's also part of the FBI's Safe Streets Task Force. So just so you have a little background in what he does, and the fact that he's not only with Homewood, but also a part of this FBI task force. Again, over 60 prostitution arrests were made during multiple undercover operations. These arrests led to rescuing 3 victims, identifying 3 of the largest human traffickers in the Birmingham area. The arrest of Chico Allen put a significant dent in the human trafficking in the area, according to the FBI. And between the case that Homewood has on him and several other jurisdictions, Mr. Allen is looking at life in prison. They had an Operation Independence Day, which was a joint operation between the FBI and Homewood, where they made 15 arrests and rescued 1 victim. Detective Ricketts planned and led the operation that also allowed us to collect more information on Donald Passmore, who was another trafficker who will take trial this March. And then lastly, wanted to say that he also, Detective Ricketts, assisted the VCAC, which is the Violent Crimes Against Children Task Force, in multiple child porn search warrants and operations. 2 of the cases had Homewood connections, and one of the search warrants actually took place in Homewood. In both cases connected to Homewood, the defendants are looking at 20 years to life in prison. So, again, just wanted to make sure that everybody, next time you see your police chief or one of the officers that's out there, let them know that the proclamation is an important thing, but let them know that they've been working on this for a while, and we appreciate everything that they've done. So. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCluskey, and thank you, Chief, for your good work, and for Detective Ricketts as well. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to begin with approval of some minutes. I will entertain a motion to dispense with the reading. We've got a couple of them here. First, for the motion for dispense with the reading of the minutes from December 9th, 2019, by Mr. Harden. Second by Ms. Smith. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so those minutes are going to stand as approved. And same for December 16, 2019. I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading and approval of those minutes. So moved. By Mr. Gwaltney. Second. Second by Mr. McCluskey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So those minutes stand approved as well. Have a couple of board vacancies and appointment issues. First, we have Ward 3 Cable Commission. We still don't have that filled. We did extend it to today's meeting. I'm going to go ahead and extend it without objection, unless you guys have something. I was going to extend it for an extended period of time to March 9th, which will be about a month and a half, if no objection, and hopefully we can find one before then.
Well, and this is partially my fault. Walter and I have been discussing this, and I meant to get with Mr. Kendrick in regards to this to find out, because we're not really sure whether or not this committee, since they never meet, is something that we need to continue on with. So we need to look at that, but if you give us until March, then that's something that we can certainly identify and move forward with by then.
Great.
So I apologize with the holidays and everything else that was going on. We didn't get that done before now, so
Not a
I'm
problem.
sorry.
Not a problem. All right, so that'll go to March 9th without
You're still
objection.
opening it, but you just say we may not feel it.
Right now, we're just going to extend it till March 9th, and we'll see what happens between now and then. How about that? All right, one other item, we have a Ward 4 Park Board opening, which I think we have an incumbent who may want to seek that position. So I'm going to open that up for 2 weeks until January 27th, 2020, without objection. And hopefully that will all come to fruition, or if there's another candidate, so be it. All right, a couple of additions to tonight's agenda. Committee referral, we have a couple items. 100120, request for consideration to grant a utility easement to Spire for a gas line at the Homewood Fleet Maintenance property at 68 Bagby Drive, coming to us from Jeff Watson with Spire, and Wyatt Pugh and Greg Cobb, and that's going to go to our Public Works Committee. We have 120120, request for city to accept corporate donations and amend fiscal year 2019-2020 budgets for these donations and subsequent expenditures, coming to us from Brandon Broadhood with our fire department, and we're going to send that to Finance Committee. And then we have one other addition to our other new business agenda, 110120, request to authorize the mayor to sign an extension contract with the Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham for the City of Homewood Central Business District Master Planning and Zoning Ordinance Project. That's coming to us from Councilor Andy Gwaltney, and that will again come up in our other new business agenda later tonight. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as amended. So moved. By Mr. McCluskey.
Second.
Second by Ms. Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Tonight's agenda, therefore, is approved as amended. First, with consent agenda, you can see your items there for consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
By Ms. Smith, second by Ms. Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So those consent agenda items are disposed of. Next is our old business agenda. First item is 101119, which is a public hearing that was held on December 9th at 6 p.m. for consideration of condemning a house at 1649 28th Avenue South. And I think we had opened and closed this public hearing, but we kept it on the agenda for a report from Mr. Pugh and perhaps an update. Mr. Pugh.
Yes, sir. I spoke with the potential new owner today. He has a closing date set for March 31st. The dangerous conditions that were present there have been temporarily fixed. So hopefully he can make it till the 31st before we have any more trouble.
So with that, in your opinion, the danger is at least controlled until March 31st?
Yes, sir. That'd be a good way to put it.
Okay. All right. Any further questions?
I'd just like to continue to carry it over.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions, discussion?
No, I just was going to ask if there was some specifics about how, because I know that deck was pretty dangerous looking.
Yes, it is. And the temporary fix is he sort of has it fenced off with like a temporary construction barrier. Obviously, if someone's curious enough and, wants
Get around
to
it.
trespass in there, they can get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my worry.
There's
is that
no-
The fix wasn't really a fix.
It's not a permanent fix, but
All right. Well, with that, we'll carry this over again, and I don't know if there's going to be any more progress or checking on it. It probably would not hurt, Mr. Pugh. I don't mean to drag you out there every meeting, but
Sure.
continue maybe to monitor it, because I think there's some concern up here about that danger. I understand it is under control, but we certainly want it to stay that way until it gets to that closing. So
understood.
all right, so without objection, we'll carry 101119 over. 111119, which is also a public hearing from December 9th, 2019 for consideration of condemning a house at 618 Hambaugh Avenue. And again, this was a public hearing that was held and closed, and this item was also carried over for a report from Mr. Pugh.
Yes, sir. The owner, Mr. Markham, has taken out a permit for all the work he's going to do, both repairing the accessory structure and finishing up the addition that was unpermitted. We got the permit straightened out. So far, he's had a little trouble dealing with his contractor, so he's in the process of finding a new contractor. I would say the accessory structure, though, is buttoned up pretty tight, and it's in a fence, and he's keeping the fence locked, so I feel okay about that. Sir? The permits have been pulled, yes, sir.
Okay. Any further discussions, questions on this? I don't know if we're going to want to.
Based on your conversation with him, that he's trying to move forward, and when you have trouble with contractors, sometimes you're not paying them, sometimes they're busy, and they don't focus on your job. Does it look like there's something that you need your personal impression?
Well, in this particular case, I did speak with him about that specifically and at length. His contractor sort of disappeared and got really busy on another job, and he's had difficulty getting him back. So he's going to drop him and go another direction. That seems to be the problem right now.
I think without objection on this one, we're going to carry this over as well. Sorry, Mr. Pugh.
Sure, that's fine.
We got too much fluidity to that issue. Yes, Mr. Wolverton?
Just a quick clarifying question. So, I mean, I think we left it as just the accessory structure was the main concern, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did he say exactly what his plans are? Or is he just going to demo it?
No, he's
try and
going to
rehab
restore it to a safe condition.
Okay.
He's going to restore it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I apologize. I tend to agree with President Wright. I'd like to see a little bit of work start on it, and if we have to wait until then to get his contractor kind of lined up in line before we drop it, I'd like to see some of that. So,
Sounds fair.
thank you.
All right, so we'll carry that over without objection. 13/11/19, public hearing that was also from December 9th, 2019, for consideration of condemning a house at 1117 Hardwick Lane. Also, a public hearing held and closed on this. And Mr. Pugh, if you can update us on this one.
Where we left this one was a case of trying to do sort of a good faith effort to do due diligence to find out who the actual owner is. To that end, I commissioned Brightline Title here in Homewood. They came back with this owner search, which I've provided all of you. It still shows Ms. Johnson as the owner. If a bank has foreclosed on this, they've really dropped the ball, I would say.
They haven't foreclosed. That representative from the bank, Moore's going to be here. Mr. Wright, you want to hear from them? I spoke to.
Please.
Step aside.
Even though we closed the public hearing, we're going to go ahead and hear from you.
Good
So
evening,
go ahead.
councilors. My name's Josh Hess. I appreciate y'all taking the time.
Yeah, there's Jack, what?
Josh Hess.
Oh, you want to find
I spoke with Mr. Hess today. He confirmed he's aware of the hearing. I've also called a lawyer in Dothan that Mr. Hess has reported to me is the lawyer for Ms. Johnson, and left him a message, didn't hear back from him. He also is aware of the hearing because he's the one who called Maynard Cooper's office today, I think, and informed them of this hearing tonight. So as far as I can tell, all interested parties who have an interest in the land based on the title search has actual knowledge of this proceedings tonight.
And to provide a little more context, I spoke with Mr. Kendrick earlier today. We received an email from Ms. Johnson's attorney earlier today, which was the first time my client Penny Mack, who's the mortgagee on the property, has received any notice of the condemnation. We're currently in litigation related to the property with both Ms. Johnson and Esurance, who's the insurer on the property. Without diving too much into the details, there's been a dispute about whether the homeowner's insurance is payable both to Ms. Johnson and to Penny Mack as the lost payee mortgagee on the property. My client's attempting to retain the insurance proceeds And the litigation has obviously slowed the foreclosure process, given that there's claims involving whether Ms. Johnson was timely on her mortgage and whether she was up to date on her mortgage. We are considering foreclosing in the near future. We're starting to take those steps, and because we were just given notice today, respectfully would request a little bit more time to work out any implications of the condemnation and what, if any, steps we need to take to foreclose in short order, given the litigation and given this condemnation proceeding.
Well, this house burned last spring. And certainly your mortgage company's been aware of other proceedings that the city's had when we had to clean up the yard. They've actually got notice. Mr. Cook's here, he's spoken to the penny, whatever it is.
And I can't speak to
For them
other,
not to know is not.
well, I can't speak to other mortgagee
I
and
can't tell you
condemnation
that
proceedings.
They told
but-
you they didn't know, but they did know the condition of this house.
Right, and I can just tell you what my client reported to me today, that
Sure.
they've checked incoming correspondence and had not received
It'd be
any
better for
notice
you
from the
if they
city
came up
related
here,
to it.
because
I'm sorry?
It might be better for you if they came up and spoke, because there's people from the city that's been in touch with them about this property since it burned.
And I'm happy to talk with anybody about this. Again, this is the first I've heard about it today, and that's why I'm coming before the committee tonight to try and see if it could be continued for a short period of time while we address this.
Do you, can I ask you something, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you represent them as an attorney or as a?
Yes, sir, as an
Okay.
attorney. Mhm.
Okay,
We represent them in the litigation that's pending in Jefferson County.
okay. So I guess just trying to understand where this could go, we don't know because of the litigation whether it'll go to foreclosure. And I guess if the litigation over the insurance gets resolved, would you say that within what period of time after that gets resolved, would you say that you think the foreclosure process would start and finish,
Well,
based on your experience?
It's a good question, sir. So, frankly, we're considering foreclosing before the litigation is final. The litigation can, as I'm sure some of you are aware, can drag on for quite some time. And our position, as we've done more due diligence, is that we're considering foreclosing shortly, potentially in February, instituting proceedings. We wanted to work out this insurance issue prior to foreclosing, given that Penny Mac believes that the insurance proceeds are rightfully payable. And when Penny Mac can avoid foreclosing on a borrower, they always want to do that. And
Sure.
frankly, insurance, we believe, is liable for this money. And so we've been trying to work through those issues. As that's been kind of swamped down and dragged down, we've started considering potentially this foreclosure process as well.
Okay.
So what is Penny Mac gonna do when they foreclose about this property?
Whatever's required of them under the city ordinances and. you know.
Well, what's required of everyone who has an interest in it simply is to abate this safety condition. It's been in existence since May.
Mr. Kendrick, is there any drawback to the city going ahead and proceeding with condemnation, tearing the house down, leaning the property? Would that impede their ability to foreclose in the house?
Not that I'm aware of. You can speak to that.
This has just been a
What
public
interest is
nuisance for
gonna
way
be
too
paid
long.
for
It's not
mortgage?
against you or anything.
No, I totally
It's
understand.
just-
And again, I'm coming to this with fresh eyes tonight. I know y'all have lived through this for
Yeah.
quite some time. One thing to say about that is my understanding, and again, I've just started digging into these issues today, but that to the extent the city incurs costs related to any debris cleanup or removal costs, then the city would have a right to place a prime lien on the property, which would certainly affect Penny Mac's mortgage interest because it would be ahead of the mortgage,
Well,
potentially.
if I can, I'd just like to point out that I believe there's already liens against the property for yard cleanup. There's also a lien against the property for the cost, the ongoing cost of the city supplying a fence barrier around the property. So to that point, I guess I don't understand what the difference would be to go ahead and make it a safe condition, which, quite frankly, before my wife and I moved to Homewood, we looked at this house 7.5 years ago, and it was rough then. That was before Ms. Johnson bought the property. It's continued to decline. And then I've seen videos and seen it in person. I don't know if you went by to look at it.
Today, Mr. Kendrick sent me a picture of it.
Yeah,
Candidly, it's not in
it's
great shape.
atrocious, and
Yeah.
it's been an ongoing problem for quite some time. So it's not safe under any circumstance. It has an accessory structure that was not permitted that needs to come down as well. So I'm just trying to be clear and blunt about, the ongoing nature of this property in particular. So, for your client to not know that it was in poor condition, I think is maybe not it doesn't look good to not acknowledge that it's been in such a shabby shape for as long as it has.
Mr.
All right.
President, real quick.
Mr. White.
Mr. Kendrick, can you remind me, if we condemn it, how long is it before?
30 days.
30 days?
Yes.
Okay. So even if we condemn it tonight, it's 30 days before we're going to touch it?
Yes. Yeah.
At the earliest. I don't know if you.
Understood,
If you,
yeah.
if you think that you can get it cleaned up or make it safe somehow, I will tell you, I'm doubtful after seeing it, but.
Yes, and I don't know that we'd be able to do anything in 30 days. That's what, again, frankly, this came across today for the first time, and so we were just looking for a little bit more time to try and assess all the different angles and all that. I understand that y'all have lived through this much longer and kind of been through it, so.
Well, personally, I'm just concerned about the dangerous condition of it sitting out there for any longer than it has to.
I would tend to agree. Go ahead, Mr. Wolverton.
So from neighbors, I guess I'm a little confused about who exactly you represent, but there are neighbors that have spoken to landscape crews that have been by to clean up the yard since it burned, that acknowledged that they were sent on behalf of the mortgage company, whoever was
That would be
providing the
PayMax,
upkeep.
mortgagee on the company who I represent. Yes.
So to Mr. Kendrick's point, somebody within who you represent was well aware of the condition of the property, so I don't know. I mean, that was just one other thing that I had forgotten about, but okay.
All right, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Mr. Hess, while he's up here? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you all for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll consider action on this.
Mr. Chairman, I did not have a question, and I will make one comment before I make the motion I'm about to make, which is I don't think it's the obligation of the city to look out for the condition of someone's asset. It's their obligation to maintain their asset, and if they choose not to keep track of the condition of their asset and maintain it, it's not our obligation to come behind them. So I would move that we go forward with the condemnation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for condemnation by Mr. Hickenbottom, second by Mr. Wolverton. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that vote for condemnation passes, and that will be resolution
20-01.
20-01. You're right. New year. Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Next item is 221119, which is a public hearing that's continued tonight from December 16th to consider declaring property located at 413 Poinciana Drive a public nuisance due to violation of ordinances 1910 and 1750. This came to us initially from Scott Cook with our code enforcement with the police department. And again, this was a public hearing that was open and remains open today. And I'll begin, I guess, with a report from Mr. Cook on perhaps an update.
Yes. First of all, thank you on your last vote. Hopefully in 45 days, I'll quit getting phone calls about that property. Yes, the property in question, 413 Poinciana, is owned by William Nichols. He was close to getting in compliance last meeting. Y'all instructed him to get back with me, make the final improvements there. He did. He called me last Friday. I went by and looked at the property. He did everything that I asked him to do, and so I'm pleased with his progress.
And I can say I drove by in front of the house, and they've got privet all stacked up,
Yeah.
like we're gonna come take it away for him.
Right, please, yeah, we'll do that.
But
Gladly.
you can tell that some work had been done based on what was there on the
Exactly.
front of the house, so.
So do you recommend dropping this item?
Please, yes,
All
I
right,
do.
before we do that, let me first close, make sure there's no one else here to speak in favor or against this item. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and motion to drop from Mr. McCluskey, second by Ms. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that item is
Thank you.
dropped. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Next item, 251019, which is a request to authorize the mayor to sign loan documents with Bryant Bank for capital vehicle purchases budgeted for fiscal year 2019-2020. This came to our finance, and I believe we'll begin with a report from finance. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met Monday, January 6th. We voted 4-0 to recommend approval pending Mr. Kendrick's review. So 4-0 coming out of finance.
All right, coming out of finance with a favorable 4-0 vote. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that's going to stand approved to authorize the mayor to sign those loan documents, and it'll be resolution 20-02. Next, we'll get to our committee referral agenda, which has been amended, and I will entertain a motion to approve the committee referral agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
By Mr. Higginbotham, second by Mr. Harden. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that agenda stands as approved. Other new business, 070120, which is a request to set a public hearing for consideration to rezone property at 1619 Oxmoor Road from a R5 to, which is attached dwelling, to C1, which is office building district. Applicant being Riverbrook LLC, doing business as Riverbrook Design and Construction. The owners are Lee and Kevin Mizzo, for the purpose to permit the utilization of an existing building for a design and construction services business. This came out of the Planning Commission with a 7-0 unfavorable vote. And I need to set a public hearing on this, Mike, and I don't have a date yet. How far?
First time you could do it would be February 10th.
February 10th. So without objection, we will set this for a public hearing for February 10th. Next item, 080120, which is a request for consideration to adopt a resolution for payroll change from semi-monthly to bi-weekly. And our finance director, City Clerk Melody Salter, will explain this one to us. Melody?
Yes, sir. This is just housekeeping to clean up. We started this fiscal year paying people bi-weekly instead of semi-monthly, and part of our new executive timekeeping system change. And the personnel board lets you do either one. Some cities do one, some cities do the other, but they need a formal resolution from you saying that we changed.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion and second for approval. By Mr. Thames, second by Mr. Gwaltney. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that passes 11-0, and that will be resolution 2003. 090120 is our request for consideration of approval of vouchers for the period of December 17, 2019 through January 13, 2020. And who had the honors, Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Smith had a huge run to work through, so almost a month of invoices. So I really appreciate all the work that she's done, so I'll defer to her for the
Yes, the important thing is
recommendation.
that we have fun doing it. Isn't that right, Mr.
That's
Jones?
right.
So-
That is right. That is
All right,
right,
Mrs.
Peter.
Smith?
I felt weird because I didn't get to make any reports today since my committee didn't move anything out of committee, but I spent 3.5 hours up here doing invoices, so I feel like I kind of made up for it. I had a few minor questions, and I finally found something. I was super excited. It was like $34, but I found it, so, I feel like I had an effect on something. So I would move to approve the vouchers for approval.
All right, motion for approval from Mrs. Smith, second from Mr. Higginbotham. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so those vouchers through January 13, 2020 stand as approved. Resolution 20-04. Next item, 110120, request to authorize the mayor to sign an extension contract with the Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham for the City of Homewood Central Business District Master Planning and Zoning Ordinance Project. This was added to our agenda tonight, and I will entertain a motion and a second on this.
Move to approve.
By Ms. Andrus, second by Mr. McCluskey. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that will stand approved by 11-0 vote, and that will be Resolution 20-05. And before we get, the mayor's comments are, mayor's not with us. Before we get to reports, let me take up one housekeeping item, which is our next, we're going to change our committee meetings on Martin Luther King Day, which is January 20th. That week, we do have committee meetings, and without objection, we had discussed moving those committee meetings to that Tuesday night at January 21st. Does all that seem well received? Hearing silence, I will go ahead and do that, Melody, to change those committee meetings to January 21st.
Will do.
Also, just a reminder, we'll have a council work session regarding our sidewalks on January 27th at 5 p.m. Believe that's, yeah, that'll be before our council meeting. All right, so with that, we'll begin with our announcements, and Mr. Gwaltney.
I will set Public Works for 5:30 to 45. Councilor Jones, which one? How much do you need?
We really don't have much at all. We'd be finished in 15 minutes.
Okay, 5:15 is good. All right, I'll set Public Works for 5:15. And, public comment?
Thank you, sir. Mr. James?
Ms. Andrews, Mr. Wolverton, would y'all like to discuss your mural item next week? If so, I'll call P&D. Because I think we'll have another opportunity to meet before the public hearing on the rezone request on Oxmoor, so it's not necessary for me to call it next week unless you guys want to talk about it.
I'm fine, Andrew, if you want to carry it over, or not schedule and just pick it up the next time.
Okay. So no P&D. Andy and I will be having a ward meeting next Tuesday evening, it's the 21st, right? Yep. At 6 o'clock at the rec center. Come one, come all. Also, I just want to take a second to thank the clerk's office and the finance department.
Isn't that the night we have committees?
Yeah. We just set committees for that night, didn't we?
Yeah.
We didn't know that when we announced our board meeting.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to get you out of here by 6, I guess.
Yeah. Y'all may just have to do without us. What do you think? Yeah, or we'll just have board meeting back here. It sounds like it's going to be a pretty light evening on the committee, so. And yours will be quick, right? Okay. All right. I just want to thank Mr. Burgett and Mrs. Salter from the finance and the clerk's office. They gave me a very nice card asking me to feel better soon, which I will.
And I try to find a funny one though about because
It should have said third time's the charm.
Well, or something like falling apart because you're so young to.
Yeah.
But anyway, but we just had it generic.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyway,
Well,
but we're glad you're back.
I certainly appreciate the thought, especially when our city has much bigger things to be thinking of. And again, we're praying for Chief President's family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. Mr. Hickenbottom?
I don't really have anything tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wolverton?
Just wanted to give Patrick a happy late birthday, belated birthday. Hope it was a good one. And I guess we can just say go Tigers tonight, and either way is a positive thing. So I would like to thank everybody for not moving tonight's meeting. This is the first time in the last 4 years, so appreciate that.
Well, it's only the second time in the last 10 that.
See,
you open the door and he's going to walk.
He's done talking.
And there's always next year, so, all right. Mr. McCluskey?
Yes. So, since we're moving it to Tuesday and looking over, I don't know that I need to call public safety either, to be honest, because we've got the Oak Grove Road and the Raleigh Avenue thing, which are, yeah, and then,
I've got to get a meeting with Aldott.
The Independence Drive can't really do
I'm sure
anything till
there's
Aldott,
no
so.
chance I'll get it before next week, so.
Okay, so, and I don't have anything on the referral agenda, so I won't call public safety either. And again, prayers for Chief President's family at this time.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I wanted to share a quick story about Chief Bresnan. You know, I've been on the council for a long time, and when I first got on the council, I was appointed to finance, and he wanted to meet with me to find out, you know, is there anything that you can do to help, you know, that I can do to help you in your job on finance? And I said, well, you know, we're looking at budgets and everything, and I said, well, you know, it'd be great if we had, you know, some long-range plans, and also I'm a visual person, you know, and I like things high level, as Ms. Salter knows. So the next week, I get a 15 and 20-year capital expenditure plan with pictures of fire trucks on it. Like, I'm going to buy this, I want to buy this one in this year, and this one in this year, and they were beautiful fire trucks. And I've thought about that so many times over the years, and I have urged other department heads to provide. I mean, no one could look into the future like he could, and it really was so helpful. But it also demonstrated that he really did want to help us, you know. And I know we're all grieving, but it's just good to think about what a great person he was. So, and then finance will be at 5 on the.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Smith?
Andy, how long did you say you needed for Public Works? You just need 15? Okay. I just have a couple items on special issues, so I guess I'll set special issues for 5:30, and it should be a quick one. There was a scheduled Homewood Historic Preservation Commission meeting scheduled for tomorrow night at 6. When we got the announcement of Chief Bresnan's arrangements, I contacted the chairperson, so we are canceling that. It has been noticed, actually, as canceled. So that meeting has been canceled for tomorrow night. I just think it's going to be too busy up here tomorrow night, and they just need to stay out of the way, so they're not going to be here tomorrow night. And also, the Homewood Historic Preservation Commission is they have commissioned a documentary about the Pink House, which a student at UAB has done for them. And with JJ's help, we are having that here at Rosewood Hall on January the 30th, which is a Thursday night. And I should have looked at the time. I think it's 6, but it might be 7. Huh? 7. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brian. And it's a really, she's done a very good job, and I think it's very interesting. So if any of you are interested in coming, I believe we're going to have popcorn and some water to drink. And I just wanted to also say I met Chief Bresnan long before I even realized he was the fire chief. His daughter Lexi and my son Thomas were in the same 4K preschool class at Trinity. And my husband was thinking back to when he went to a birthday party for Lexi at their house when she was either 4 or 5. And they were all joking because the party was out in the backyard, all the kids were playing, and inside the house, Kyle went in to use the bathroom, and he's like, that's where the real party was going to be later on, because they had the adult beverages set up, and he could tell that the party was going to keep on going later in the afternoon. He's a wonderful man, and he will be greatly missed, and I'm very heartbroken over his loss, and I'm praying for Lexi and his family.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Wyatt?
Nothing tonight other than just thoughts and prayers with Chief Bresnan and his family, and I would echo what Walter said. He was, when I got appointed to council, he was the very first city employee that came up to me and said, let me know what I can do to make your job easier, and did it within minutes of me leaving my first meeting. Truthfully, I wasn't even a counselor yet because it was in committee, but now I didn't get pictures and books and stuff like that, but I did appreciate the gesture nonetheless, and he will be very missed.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Ms. Andrus?
The beautification board also had a meeting set for tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and again, out of respect for Chief Bresnan, they are going to move their meeting to the 21st as well at 6 o'clock, so that'll be up here next Tuesday. Last week, I started the week on Monday spending half a day at Station 1. I just happened to be there getting my CPR renewed. Brandon had helped me set it up, and Evan Van Arsdale had done it for me a couple years ago, and so I had 9 other people there with me, and we spent half a day there. And Lori was there, Battalion Chief Stoney, and they are the nicest people. they're so open, they're so genuine, they're so kind, they're so brave, and it all started at the top. It all started with him, because that's the way he is. And his people just are reflections of him, because that's just how he is. And anyway, I just am so sad. I'm so sad. I want to thank Barry, and I have been speaking with Amanda Dalton. And so when you see the trucks on Wednesday, and there'll just be these beautiful black bows with red bows in the middle, and Amanda went out, paid for them herself, went all over Hoover looking for material at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and whatever, and she put together 5 absolutely beautiful bows. And so when you see the trucks on Wednesday, those will be from Amanda Dalton. So please, if you know her, say thank you to her. And that's it. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Harden.
I appreciate it. He also, Chief President, walked up to me right when I got this job and handed me his card, said my cell phone's on there. If you need anything, you just let me know. I'm also, Lexi and my daughter were buddies early on in high school, and so they'd go on beach trips, and he was always the guy that got to go, and I thought, lucky him. You know, but we will miss him. I gotta, you know, I spend very little time with him and all the girl stuff, but when we were doing our Christmas parade, I got there, I guess, early enough that he and I just visited. And I mean, the story of him working both Centerpoint and Homewood and trying to keep, you know, hey, I'm working this 3 days here, and I got to move these 3 days here because I'm working there. I mean, who knows how many hours he was putting in a week, maybe 50, 60 hours a week in 2 different places. So God bless him. It was, I thought, man, that was a tough job. But, you know, it's going to be tough to replace him. It's like Bear Bryant, I guess. But anyway, our hearts are and prayers are for Lexi.
Thank you, Mr. Harden. Just to echo a lot of the comments, and Chief President, we're thinking about you, and just as I sit here just hearing all these comments, I just thank you for choosing Homewood for your life and your service, and we're so grateful, and we're going to miss you, and we already are. You're such a great loss. And I just have to go back to one story. I know we've been going on here, but I want to mention one story. Walter was mentioning one, and I was thinking of one, and I think Patrick and Walter will remember this one because it was a few years ago. Maybe some of you others were here. I think it was just us 3. And it was when the fire department folks who we're all thinking about now, you know, please don't come over and attack me as I say this, but I think the fire department may have been overreaching a little bit on some of its regulations one time. If we remember it's probably about 10 years ago. And it was kind of a heated issue. We had a lot of business interest versus the fire protection interest. And it was, and there were some very passionate people, which we fully admire and so truly admire, and both in the fire department, folks who were really trying to promote regulations that in fact did exceed some of the international requirements, frankly. And Chief President was carrying the water for that fight, and he lost that fight. And it was rather emotional with his fellow employees, and that man handled that with such grace and humility. And we were all rather passionate about it too, and some of it, but he handled that with such grace. I know you guys remember it. And he came back like the next day or the next meeting and ready to move on and make the changes as needed. And I will never forget that about how he handled that defeat, and much less how he handled himself from day to day and everything he did for our city and representing our city. And we're gonna miss him, and we're gonna miss you, Chief President. And again, I'm just grateful that you chose our city for so much of your life. And with that, thank you all. And just a reminder of our beloved Chief will be lying in state tomorrow from 10 till 2. Visitation will also be here at Rosewood Hall from 5 until 8. And then his funeral on Wednesday at 1 p.m. at Homewood Church of Christ, with graveside to follow afterwards. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.